Why don't you see him as more than just a friend? Hansel asked his sister. Is there something wrong about him? No, there's nothing wrong with him. I do like him as a friend, Gretel replied, but for some reason, I don't see him as more than just a friend to me. Don't get me wrong, he's funny and cute, but a part of me is saying that there's someone else waiting for me. I just don't know yet. Do you like Diablo? Hansel asked. Maybe that's who you like. I don't know, Hansel. I really haven't explored my sexuality yet. A lot of people see me as a straight woman, but I don't know, Gretel answered. Just give me some time, and when I do find out what it is, I'll tell you. Maybe it's Diablo or someone else. I understand, Gretel. I support your decision no matter what it is. You can count on your brother. I won't tell anyone what you said, Hansel said. Ben was hoping you can hang out with him tomorrow. He wants to spend time with you. I would like to hang with Ben tomorrow, but Gretel began before trailing off. Do you have plans to visit Muriel? Hansel asked his sister. Yes, I was planning on visiting her, Gretel answered. Well, maybe you could spend the morning with Ben, and then spend the afternoon with Muriel, Hansel suggested. That way you will hang out with two people. Well, I can't have Ben knowing about Muriel. He'll have a freak out over it, Gretel replied. But I could just tell a lie to him to hide it for now. Gretel, you know that you hate to lie to anyone, Hansel said, completely stunned by Gretel's plan. I know, bro. I just can't have Mina or Ben find out about Muriel being alive. Not until I know Muriel's changed. It has to be a secret for now, Gretel replied, and Hansel respected Gretel's decision. I understand, sis. I'll tell Ben that you're okay and would like to spend alone time. I'm by yourself, Hansel said, before leaving his sister's room and closing the door. Gretel was awake for a long time before she headed to bed. She was confused. A sheriff who's been confused about who she liked. She did like Ben and Diablo, but she wasn't sure if she liked them or Muriel. Sure, Muriel was only meeting Gretel to just try to change for the better, but there was a problem. Gretel couldn't decide on what she is. Was she into guys or girls? She liked Ben because he was funny and was a fan of her and her brother, but she didn't feel the same way that Ben felt. But how would she tell him that she wasn't into him more than just friends? That's something Gretel would have to think of it over on her own. She also liked Diablo as a friend too, but she's not sure if she liked them more than just friends. The next morning, Gretel and Ben were looking after the animals outside their house. Gretel was feeding the animals with Ben's help. Gretel had promised to spend the morning with Ben, and so she'll decide when she'll visit Muriel in the afternoon. Ben was happy to spend time with Gretel, as he rarely got to do stuff with her, away most of the day. Now, even though she had duties as a sheriff, she wanted to make sure that Muriel was okay. I'm glad you promised to spend with me in this morning, Gretel. Feeding a lot of animals is hard work for one person, Ben said. It sure is, Ben, Gretel replied, feeding the oats to Secret and Hansel's horse. What's new? Not much. A woman came here to ask you yesterday, and I said that you were out and about. And she said she had a fire burn down her house yesterday, Ben replied. No one died, thankfully, but she is staying at a friend's house for now. If she needs a loan of money, I can loan it to her after I head out this afternoon, noon or before, Gretel replied. Hansel has a meeting with the council this afternoon, and I said I was going to be busy and I can't attend to it. The people who are planning to expand Augsburg a bit, that's from what the meeting is about, Ben said. They're hoping for a bit of space for new houses to be built. I see, Gretel replied. Before she left the stable, Ben stopped her. What could he want now? Gretel, can I ask you something? Ben asked. Gretel wasn't sure on how to reply to Ben's question. She didn't want to make Ben upset or feel offended. What should she say? Gretel had to come up with a lie, and she didn't know what to tell Ben that she wasn't into him romantically. Not now, anyway. She came up with a lie, even though she hated to lie to her friends. Sure, Ben, what's on your mind? Gretel replied with a question. Why did you go straight to your bedroom after I gave you the flowers last night? Ben asked. Did I make you upset or something? If I made you upset, I'm sorry. You didn't make me upset, Ben. I've just had a lot in my mind right now, and being a sheriff is a lot of work, Gretel answered. And sometimes I go out on long walks in the forest. It's good to go out and do stuff. I see. Some people were wondering where you ran off to, but I'll let them know that you've been busy. So there was no trouble at all? Ben said as Gretel left the stable. As she was making some sandwiches for her visit to Muriel this afternoon, once she was finished taking the sandwiches, she packed a basket with a few snacks and drinks. Mina and Hansel had walked inside the house. Gretel can hear them calling for their name for the kitchen. Gretel, we're back, Hansel called out. I'm in the kitchen, Gretel called out as Mina and Hansel both walked in the kitchen. When her brother and girlfriend walked into the kitchen, Gretel was surprised to see them. Where were you two this morning? Gretel asked. Mina was throwing up, so I took her to see the doctor, Hansel said. Mina sat down on the chair near Hansel. You okay, Mina? Gretel asked. I hope it's not the flu or anything serious. Gretel finished her sentence as she packed the bear basket for the trip to Muriel's hideout this afternoon. Oh, it's not serious. The doctor said it'll be okay, Mina replied, getting up a cup of tea. What was it, something but you ate? Gretel asked Mina. Well, I guess you could say that, but not to worry. I'll be fine, Mina replied. Gretel then could see a small bump was forming around Mina's stomach, and then it hit Gretel. Mina was pregnant, and it shocked her. How would Mina be pregnant? After the events 3 months ago, she was killed by Muriel, and now pregnant? Gretel did not expect this to be the outcome of the trip to the doctors. How was Mina pregnant? Maybe Mina was pregnant during the events of 3 months ago, but didn't know at the time. Was it possible that the baby was brought back to life when Diablo did the spell on Mina? How was that even the case? Gretel was then hit by multiple questions, but who was she gonna ask? Gretel thought that she would see Diablo on her way to Muriel's hideout. Hopefully Diablo will have at least few or more answers. To Gretel, she was wondering about how Diablo was as well as Brooklyn. So she while on horseback in the forest, Gretel was on her way to visit Muriel. She decided to stop and see how Diablo was doing. She saw Diablo and Brooklyn building a treehouse near the cabin. Brooklyn was the first one to notice Gretel in secret passing by. As Gretel stopped her horse, she looked at Brooklyn at the treehouse. She then waved at the two of them. As Brooklyn got out and with her father's attention, Diablo then waved at Gretel as she hopped off of her horse. Hey Gretel, what brings you here today? Diablo asked. I'm on my way to see Muriel, and what are you and Brooklyn doing? Gretel asked. Well, we're building a treehouse. Brooklyn's ever wanted one, Diablo replied as he offered Gretel if she could help. But Gretel wasn't sure how long it would be, but Diablo said that it would only be just a few things to take care of, and it wouldn't be that long. I can help you with that. What is it you need? Gretel asked. Well, Gretel, would you mind hammering just a few steps near the entrance for Brooklyn? Diablo offered with a question, as Gretel did the task with no other questions asked. Once a few steps were placed in, Brooklyn cheered. Yay! Brooklyn cheered. Gretel, want to check inside my treehouse? As Brooklyn asked, Gretel climbed inside the treehouse. Once inside the treehouse was decorated with paint that Diablo gave Brooklyn to use, Brooklyn showed what she did so far inside for Gretel. It's a nice treehouse, Brooklyn. I really like it, Gretel said as she saw a few paintings of her and Diablo. Hansel and Brooklyn was on a wooden wall. On the right, nice painting, Brooklyn. You're doing really good at it. Thanks, Gretel, Brooklyn replied. Her fingers and hands were covered in paint. Gretel and Brooklyn climbed down from the treehouse just as Diablo called Brooklyn to get her hands washed up. As Brooklyn headed inside the house, Gretel stared at Diablo, wanting to ask him some stuff. Mind if I asked you a few questions? Gretel asked. It's about when you brought Mina back to life. Oh, anyway, how is Mina doing? What about her? Is she doing okay? Diablo questioned a reply. She's doing good. She and Hansel went to see a doctor today, and they said that Mina was throwing up, and I noticed a small bump forming around her belly, Gretel said. Is it possible that she's pregnant? I know vomiting is one of the symptoms, but I was wondering, how would it be possible that Mina is pregnant? All I remember is that Mina was stabbed by Muriel when she wasn't showing at the time. I think my spell might have brought the fetus back to life if the mother was brought back to life, so if I'm correct, Mina would have been pregnant during the events 3 months ago. But I'm not really sure. The baby might have been in development before gestation started during the Blood Moon event, Diablo replied. Well, that may explain it. Hansel did love Mina a lot, Gretel said, and maybe they made love at the time, but how does that even work? Well, it's magic in the workings, Gretel. We never know what magic could really do, Diablo said. But aren't you excited to be an aunt? Of course I am. Mina and Hansel didn't tell me, but I did notice Mina's pregnancy. I have a feeling that she and Hansel will tell me this evening, Gretel said. A nephew or niece for me to play with would be awesome. Brooklyn will have a friend to play with. Is Gretel having a baby, Daddy? Brooklyn asked her father. Gretel and Diablo had a laugh. Gretel's brother's girlfriend's having a baby, Brooklyn, Diablo replied. And I'm going to be an aunt in 3 months, Gretel added. Where is the baby? Brooklyn asked. It's inside of my brother's girlfriend's tummy. Isn't this exciting? Gretel replied with a question, patting the young witch's forehead. Yeah, and I'm excited, Brooklyn said. Gretel realized that it was almost 1 o'clock and needed to head to Muriel's hideout. I better get going. I wouldn't want to keep Muriel waiting, Gretel said to Diablo as she hopped back on her horse. See ya, Diablo. Gretel then galloped off of her horse through the forest, after saying goodbye to Diablo and Brooklyn. As Gretel got up to the mountains was the entrance of Muriel's hideout, she parked Secret and tied her up. She now walked inside to expect Muriel to be there. As she was looking around, Muriel was tapped on Gretel's shoulder, startling her in the process. Muriel, you startled me, Gretel said, sighing in relief that it was only Muriel. Oh, I have my ways of greeting guests around Gretel. You never got used to it, Muriel replied. That was because I killed you 3 months ago. How are you this afternoon? Gretel asked. Fine, thanks, dearie. What's in that basket? Muriel pointed at the basket that Gretel was carrying. The sheriff looked at the basket before looking at Muriel. I packed lunch for the both of us, and I think we should eat outside of your hideout, Gretel said. She and Muriel walked out of the hideout, and Gretel placed the tablecloth down. What if someone sees us? Muriel asked in a worried tone. We're out in the open. No one is going to see us from the isolated iceberg in Augsburg, so we'll be fine, Gretel reassured Muriel. As the two girls sat down on the tablecloth, Gretel began to pull out 2 bottles of milk, along with sandwiches and snacks. Muriel was confused by all of the new food. She acted as if she never tried them before. After all, she has feasted on children for a long time, and most likely didn't know what the taste of real food was like. What the hell is this? Muriel asked, eyeing at the food as Gretel had set out for them. I bought some new foods for you to try. Vegetables from my garden back at town. I also brought you milk and cookies like you asked. And I even made you sandwiches, Gretel replied, taking a sandwich for herself. Muriel just stared at Gretel, unsure if she should try the new food that Gretel displayed. Do you expect me to try these foods? Muriel grumbled a question. Yeah, Muriel. I just want you to try these foods. You have feasted on children for far too long, and if you want to change for the better, this is a good start, Gretel replied. Try a carrot stick dipped in ranch. I made it myself. Muriel was hesitant to try new foods. What if she only liked children? How would she wouldn't know until she tried it? Would she? I don't know, Gretel. What if I don't like a certain food you have? Muriel asked. You don't have to like all of them that I have here. I'll bring different foods for you to try. Just try a carrot stick and see if you like it, and if not, that's okay, Gretel answered. Just try it, Muriel. It's one way to find out if you like it or not. How do you know? I'm not that stupid, am I? Muriel asked. Then she sighed as she wanted to change. She had thought about what Gretel said for a few days now. And if she wanted to change, she'll have to start listening to Gretel. Although Muriel will have to admit it, she was starting to warm up to the idea of becoming Gretel's friend. I just know, Aunt Muriel. My brother and I had to try vegetables when we were kids, Gretel replied. We didn't like it at first, but as we got older, we tried them and liked them. Although there are some foods that my brother likes that I don't like, and vice versa with me and him, and even stuff we both don't like. Well, I guess I'll try it, Muriel sighed. She picked up the carrot stick and hesitated for a moment. Gretel was eyeing at Muriel. If she wanted Muriel to become a friend, she had to make Muriel do as she said. Muriel then dipped the carrot stick into ranch and then took a bite off of it. She chewed it. Gretel was still eyeing at the evil witch. Muriel swallowed the carrot stick after chewing it for long enough. How is it? Gretel asked. It's not bad. You're right, Gretel, Muriel replied as she and Gretel had a wonderful picnic together. The evil witch had tried a lot of different foods that Gretel had brought with her. The two girls were having a great time. As soon as the sun was setting, Gretel was about ready to head back into town. Are you going to be okay alone, Muriel? Gretel asked before jumping on her horse. Yeah, I'll be okay, Muriel replied. You can visit me anytime. I don't want to keep stealing you too much. You're like the new sheriff after all, and I know this is a lot of work, Muriel replied. Gretel then smiled and said that she'll come back to see Muriel the next day. As Gretel was on her way back home, she could see that Diablo was outside on a rocking chair. He looked over to see that Gretel was there, and if he had carts of boxes. Gretel then stopped her horse to see if Diablo needed anything, so she walked up to the porch. Hey, Diablo, are you doing okay? Gretel asked. Yeah, I'm okay, Gretel. How was your visit with Muriel? Is she okay? Diablo asked with a question. Oh, she's okay, Diablo. She did try some new food I bought, and she liked them. Except the celery, as she wasn't really a fan of that, Gretel answered. Well, that's good news that she's warming up to the idea of changing her ways, Diablo asked. I sure hope she is, because she can change. Well, she is somewhat warming up to the idea of changing to be a good person. Sure, she's not liking the idea, but I think she's starting to become my friend, Gretel replied. I guess she's not really used to being around me, not being around her so much, so she's never really had someone to chat with or even hang with her. With the exception of the red-haired witch and horned witch, she didn't really have too many girlfriends, Diablo said. My daughter is going to be on a class trip tomorrow, so they're going to be at a park in the forest. Maybe if you and Muriel were out and about, maybe you could stop by and see her. Sure, but I won't tell Brooklyn that your sister is her aunt. Not yet, anyway. We will tell her eventually, Gretel replied. I'm cooking supper if you want to stay for dinner. I'll also bring oats for your mare, Diablo offered. Gretel smiled and took the offer before tying her horse up and headed inside. Brooklyn was at her table, drawing as she always did. Hey Gretel, look at my drawing. Brooklyn showed Gretel a picture that she drew of Hansel, Mina, and 3 of her children. Very nice drawing, Brooke. Who are the 3 children? Gretel asked. One is me and the other 2 are Hansel and his girlfriend's children, Brooklyn replied, making Gretel smile. Diablo and Brooklyn weren't that bad at all. Maybe Muriel would consider changing for the greater good. I'm sure my brother would like that too, Gretel smiled, as Diablo brought over some pork and salad on the table. So Gretel, I found some boxes for you to go look for tomorrow, Diablo said. They're on the cart outside of the house. Maybe you could have a look at them? Well, sure. I wonder what's in them, Gretel wondered as dinner was finished. Brooklyn then went in her room to play while Gretel and Diablo were alone. I wanted to wait until Brooklyn was in her room, as I don't want her to know now, Diablo said, wanting to keep her Aunt Muriel a secret for now. Now that Brooklyn is in her room, I'll tell you what I have in the boxes. Diablo then took Gretel outside the cart to the nearby cabin and opened up the boxes. Gretel was surprised at what the boxes contained. They all contained stuff that was photo albums and pictures, and they all had Muriel's stuff inside some of the boxes, and some contained stuff from Muriel's childhood. And this made Gretel's heart drop. Muriel was, or used to have a sweet innocent woman, until when she and Diablo had their falling out as adults. Muriel had become evil. These pictures and albums stuff is Muriel's? Gretel asked. Yes. I have kept them for myself, as Muriel refused to take them before our falling out. It's the reason why she became evil. I would like you to take these to her when you come by tomorrow, Diablo said to Gretel. Maybe she could use a bit of a trip to the past. Maybe it will make her realize what she had become. Okay, I'll do that. And what time is Brooklyn going to be on her school trip? Gretel asked. She'll be on her school trip around 11:30 a.m., so that's plenty of time, Diablo replied. I want to thank you for visiting my sister. Maybe when she's ready, maybe she'll want to come see me. I could convince her if you want, but only if she's ready, Gretel said. Thanks, Gretel. You're a friend that is really better sheriff than Berenger was, Diablo said. And as he said that, Gretel was having flashbacks of that awful sheriff who was running the town 3 months ago. He did kill the old mayor, and Gretel even felt a bit uncomfortable with anyone talking about Berenger. He did beat her up to almost to death and try to violate her. No problem, Diablo. I'm always here for ya, Gretel replied. Then Diablo pulled into a hug. She felt that the warlock and Ben, but she was starting to feel somewhat of something between her and Muriel. But what was it? Was it friendship or something more between them? Only time would tell, but Gretel was still in a daze of what was happening. As Diablo was about to pull Gretel's lips near his, Gretel opened her eyes and knew what Diablo was going to do next. She had to stop him and say something to prevent Diablo from kissing her. She did like Diablo and Ben, but not romantically. What are you doing? Gretel asked Diablo, stopping him from kissing the witch hunter. Wait, what? Diablo snapped out of what was happening, and his tension was back to reality. What happened? You were going to kiss me, weren't you? Gretel asked, crossing her arms. Well, yes, I'm sorry about that, if I made you feel uncomfortable, Gretel, Diablo said. I wasn't sure if you were into me, more than just friends. Well, Diablo, to tell you the truth, I'm in a dilemma on that. Like you and Ben, But I'm feeling something different, Gretel said. It has something to do with me and Muriel, but I don't know what that feeling is, though. But all I could say is something. I just can't put my finger on it, though. Mind if I ask you something? Diablo asked. I hope you're not going to get offended or mad if I ask you. What is it, Diablo? Gretel replied the question. You could tell me, and I promise I won't be mad. Diablo took a deep breath and sighed before answering Gretel's question. Hopefully she won't be mad with him, even if it was something personal. Are you bisexual?